Human body systems is our last unit because you can't graduate high school without knowing what your body's made out of. So you might not know every single part, but you need to know the main parts. And if you do go into something like biology, like actually obviously being a doctor or a nurse or like a physical therapist, you do have to memorize like all these little parts. Um, but just remembering that kids are yelling. Your body's made of cells, and everything they do is to try to maintain homeostasis. So sometimes they say a good answer on the Regents is maintain homeostasis, because really everything you do is just trying to maintain homeostasis. So you have these different life processes, and there's different, besides having different organs and parts of your body, there's like some major systems, right? Like your digestive system is like every thing involved with when you eat food till you excrete it. So the digestive system could include like your mouth, your esophagus, your trachea, your now here's your esophagus, your stomach to your small intestine to your large intestine and colon. Okay, so it's like everything that has to do with that process is one big system. It's an organ system. It's a system of organs working together. All right. So just a few words to remember is that I go smaller than this. Okay. So you have cells. They're made of little organelles. So organelles make up cells. So organelles make up cells. Cells, when you put together, make up tissues. Tissues make up organs. So before this tissue, I'd say you have cells, and before that, you have organelles. Okay, Anna, I'll be right with you. So organelles make up cells, cells make up tissue, tissue makes up the organ. Put a bunch of organs together, you get an organ system. Put a bunch of systems together, you get an organism. So our first system that we're going to talk about today is the digestive system, right? We're all kind of very aware of that because we love eating. So we know that we break down our food by chewing it into smaller particles, and then it goes into our stomachs and gets broken down even further. And do we really know why? Well, it's so that it can actually be small enough to get absorbed into cells and be circulated throughout the body by your blood. So there's lots of players in the digestive system. The food starts in your mouth, as you know, but there's these little glands around your mouth. That's so like when the doctor checks to see if your glands are swollen, some of those glands are salivary glands, and they're the ones that kind of release saliva or spit when you eat food. So if you ever like eat a Starburst and your mouth gets so juicy, or if you ever even gleek, which is like sometimes you open your mouth at like a weird angle and like saliva squirts from under your tongue, but sometimes if you have your mouth open at the right time when saliva squirts, you'll like gleek and like this little like stream of spit will come out. It only happens like for me like once every like 5 years. But that is your salivary gland spraying out saliva to help you digest your food. And that saliva contains different enzymes to help you break down your food. So the digestion starts right in your mouth with the different salivary glands. Then it goes through your pharynx, and you can see right here that it's like a tube going down into your stomach. So then your food goes down this narrow tube, and this is where choking can happen, right? Because the tube can also go to your lungs, if this was your lungs right here, and you have a little flap that like prevents food from going to your lungs. But if food gets stuck in there, then the air can't get to your lungs. You can't breathe. And now because this pipe is a pipe and it's got like an opening like this, what are the most commonly choked on foods in the United States? Okay. Hot dogs, grapes, and hard candy. Why? Because they are the perfect shape to completely block that opening, this pipe right here. Okay. If you got a pretzel caught in your throat, that wouldn't be great, but because of its shape, it's not going to block off all the air. So some air is still going to be able to get by that pretzel. Then the food moves into your stomach. And you can see they included the liver in this picture because the liver, it doesn't go into the liver, but the liver is going to send in enzymes. Same thing with the pancreas and the gallbladder. The enzymes are made actually in the liver, and then they're put into the gallbladder and then squirted into the stomach to help digest the food. If we got to dissect the little pigs, which we would have, you would have found the gallbladders like this little sac stuck to the back of the liver. And people do that. It sends enzymes for digesting fats. So sometimes people are going to have like gallbladder issues if they eat like a ton of fat. And what else? Okay, so some food gets digested in the stomach, but then it does go on to the small intestine, which is actually like the one that's bigger in the picture, but it's like skinnier pieces, I guess is why they call it the small intestine. And more digestion can happen here, and absorption is big there, and I'll show you that in a second. And then finally, it's going to go into the large intestine. It kind of loops around and out of your body as fecal matter. Digestion brings us back to enzymes, which we learned earlier. Remember, enzymes, when a substrate attaches, so this is an enzyme, and this is the substrate. When the substrate attaches, the enzyme can help it break down so that in the end, it went from being whole to being broken. So that's how enzymes help your food break down. And remember, the enzyme is unchanged, so it can go on and work again on another thing. Remember, enzymes are specific. They have that specific shape. They only work on certain things, like lactase enzyme only works on lactose. So they have specific shapes. If the shape is altered, now the function is going to be altered. It's not going to work. So where are all your major foods digested? Well, carbohydrates made of glucose are digested by amylase, starts in the mouth, continues in the small intestine. Fats are digested since it's lipids, they're digested by lipase in the small intestine, and proteins are digested in the stomach and small intestine. All right, so the reason that your intestines are like shaped like this is to give them lots of surface area, because this is the time for all those little molecules that are in your tummy and now your small intestine to get into your bloodstream, because they're basically going through a tube through your body, and they never really, like, if you eat chicken, it doesn't go to your arm. You need somehow the protein from that chicken, and since in its chicken form, it's too big to be sent through the bloodstream to your arm. And even in the protein form, even if you break the chicken down into individual proteins, it's still too big to make it to like the muscle in your arm. So what you want is to break it down into its smallest form, like amino acids, and then send it through the small intestine where it gets absorbed into the bloodstream, and then it can be sent to the muscles in your arm to make you strong. So we want a lot of surface area so we can absorb as much nutrients as possible. And then even on these sausage-like small intestines, we have these things right here, which are like called villi, and they're like these little hair-like projections. So they'd be like on here. So it'd be like inside these sausage-like, what are these called? Small intestines. There's even like these little hairs to give it more surface area, because instead of just having like a flat small intestine, you have this small intestine with all these bumps that provide all this surface area to absorb nutrients. So what happens to people with celiac disease, if you hear like, oh, this is gluten-free, I would say raise your hands. Anyone in here know someone who eats gluten-free or they eat gluten-free? What happens is when people with celiac disease, like me, I have celiac disease, they eat food with gluten in it, it causes inflammation of these things, these villi, and that is painful. So that's the first problem with eating gluten. And the second is it causes those villi to flatten. And now you have all this lost surface area in here, and it's all flat. And now those people can't absorb nutrients as well. So some of them lose weight, or they just don't get like certain nutrients they need, and they're going to have other problems throughout their body because now they're missing nutrients. So it's like a two-step problem. One is the painful inflammation. Two is that it flattens the villi and prevents proper absorption of nutrients. So it's basically like your blood vessels are in these little villi, and kind of like how the nutrients from mom got to the baby through like the capillaries that met in the placenta. This is how your nutrients get like actually into your bloodstream. Nutrients are going along your small intestines, and there's all these little finger-like projections called villi, and they have blood in them. And if they can diffuse across the membrane, which is another thing we learned before, that's why we learned it. If they can diffuse across the membrane from high concentration to low, they get into the blood, and now the blood can take it to your arms to make your arms strong, and to your back to make your back strong, and wherever else you need the proteins. But it can't take a protein that's too big, so it has to break it down into amino acids so it's smaller, send that over to your muscles, and then your muscles, you have to turn the amino acids, build them back into protein. Why do you need to digest your food so that you can send it all nutrients all over your body? Well, a couple reasons. You need it to be able to build stuff in your bodies. You need to make hormones. You need to make enzymes. You need to make new cells. You need to make muscle. So everything you want to build in your body needs little building blocks. So you're going to break your food, because you can't just take chicken protein and turn it into human arm protein. You got to eat it, break it down into its simplest parts, amino acids, send it over to your big arm muscles, and then rebuild it into human muscle tissue, right? So whatever you want to build, synthesize, needs those building blocks. So you have to eat to get those building blocks, and you have to digest it and send it around your body. And the other thing is, we need energy. We need stuff to burn in cellular respiration. You need to eat some carbohydrates, some sugar, so that you have sugar or carbohydrate energy to burn for cellular respiration, to provide your body with energy, because every cell in your body needs energy just to live, just to carry out its functions, to send signals, to do whatever it is that particular cell does. It needs energy from cellular respiration, and cellular respiration needs food to drive it. So just to summarize, this particular body system, human digestion, brings in a lot of the stuff we've learned. It takes all the organs working together, and then it takes, you need your blood cells, and you need enzymes to help you eat the food, send enzymes to break the food down, send it through different organs put in different enzymes and do different jobs, absorb the nutrients, which then get put into the blood and sent throughout the whole body. And then actually what the large intestine does is it kind of like creates the feces, the poop, right? It's like takes whatever's extra, and it actually like does these squeezes, and it actually squeezes like the water out of it. And this is where water absorption happens. So if you have a problem with your large intestine, that's where you'll have diarrhea, because like the water didn't get removed from the feces. So you're going to have like watery poop, right? Which is diarrhea. So lots of answers in digestion. The answer a lot of times is diarrhea. Which is lovely. But it just takes lots of body systems to do this. The whole reason we do it is to provide energy and building blocks to every cell in the body. And to do that, we need enzymes, which again have to have that matching shape, because shape determines function, for those enzymes to help break down your nutrients.